track down an artist who has since moved out to the backwoods in New Mexico. And the selection that I have chosen to read is the beginning of chapter 16. It's somewhat shorter than the other selections tonight, not in part due to my voice. And this takes place after she has gone out to meet him in the desert, and through a series of mishaps they have become lost and stranded. When the first thunderclap sounded, it was the loudest thunder that Liz had ever heard. She felt it reverberating through the ground beneath her. Ray sat bolt upright, and Liz was immediately dislodged, crumpling to the cave floor before propping herself up on her arms. Ray clambered to his feet so quickly that he cracked his head on the low roof of the cave. Fuck! God! He rubbed the top of his head. What's the matter with you? Rain, Liz! Rain! Rain? Yes, rain! The Mexican fucking monsoon! Get up! Get up! Grab that jug and find that plastic bag from the tortillas. He ran outside, heedlessly kicking the roll of cattle wire out of his way, arms and legs flailing. Liz gathered up the things he had requested and followed groggily after him. Ray was kneeling in the dirt, wielding a stick against the ground and digging frantically. Put those down, he said without looking up, and go find me 5 or so rocks bigger than your fist. Bewildered, Liz did as she was told. When she returned with the rocks, carried in a pouch she had made from the front of her tank top, Ray had made good progress. He rested the gallon jug in the hole, and when the top few inches still protruded, he returned to dig it. She sat and watched him, fascinated. He jabbed the stick into the ground over and over, and then scooped out the loosened earth with his hands. Once he got through the cracked crust on top, the soil beneath was looser and his progress much faster. He attacked the work with a single-mindedness that spoke of desperation. Once the hole was deep enough to hold the gallon jug a few inches below the surface of the ground, he ripped the bottom out of the plastic bag with his teeth and inserted the torn end into the mouth of the jug with shaking fingers. Liz watched the first fat drop hit the ground in a puff of dust. Ray spread out the top of the bag over the rim of the hole and weighed the edge down with the rocks. His work completed, he sat back on his heels and steepled his fingers in front of his face. What is it? Liz asked. More drops fell. It's a rain trap. The water will fall on the plastic and roll into the jug. I just wish we had more plastic. We could collect more that way, but this way, well, we'll at least get something. Lightning flashed overhead, and the thunder came almost simultaneously. Ray started and fell from his crouch. The wind kicked up, and the air felt cool and sweet. A few seconds later, the rain began in earnest. The downpour came on so fast, it was almost as though a spigot had been opened in the sky. Instead of getting up, Ray just lay on the ground and let the rain pour down on him. His mouth was open, and it was hard to hear through the noise of the rain and the thunder, but Liz was sure he was laughing. Liz followed his example, lying back and turning her face up to the sky. The rain was warm and soft, even though it was lashed by the rising winds. She looked up after a few moments and saw Ray was gone. She looked around and spotted him loping through the rain with his arms spread. He had taken off his shirt and his jeans, and his boxers were soaked through, his genitals flopping absurdly under the wet fabric. Within minutes, there was a 1/4 inch of standing water on the ground. She could feel it slosh when she moved her arms. Gripped with inspiration, she got up and stripped off both her long-sleeve shirt and the tank top underneath, and started scrubbing her skin with the watery mud. She took her hair out of its ponytail and rubbed the mud into her scalp as well. It had been itching so badly. For good measure, she lay down again in the mud and rolled in it. Anything to get rid of all the sweat and filth of the last few days. As she was standing up, she caught sight of her reflection in the wavering surface of the water. She didn't recognize herself. Her cheeks were hollow, and the cords in her neck stood out. Her collarbones were a severe line from one shoulder to the other. With the mud on her skin and her hair hanging in heavy, wet ropes, she looked like some kind of ancient cave woman. Ray's face appeared over her shoulder, further away, and she was stunned by how alike their reflections looked, each sodden and caked with mud. She swept her hand across the surface, scattering the reflection, and put her lips to the dark water and drank. She didn't even mind the dirt in it. It tasted like wine. She luxuriated even in the slurping sound that her lips made against the surface of the water, a sound so wet and newly foreign. She raised her head and saw Ray's lips moving, but whatever he had said was ripped away by the wind and drowned by the rain. What? It's fucking beautiful, he shouted. Yes, Liz shouted back at him. His hair had been getting steadily more and more matted over the last few days, and with the addition of the mud, it had lost its strawberry blonde hue. It hung in ropes, and his wide blue eyes were shocking against the gray mud on his face. He bounded away again, whooping and hollering. He looked like a deranged shaman, high on psychedelics, trying to reach the sky with his leaps. Liz sat down and watched him go, feeling happy and whole.